Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot Still Boxer. I give you my commentary on the news of the day as reported by Wall Street Journal. First up, there's the impeachment is it's almost guaranteed now that Trump will sooner or later be impeached by the House because Democrats can survive a few defections from if some for some reason decide not to vote for impeachment. So Trump getting impeached seems inevitable. Removal, however, not likely. So there's an article about the fact that impeachment is probably inevitable, but then it goes on to the trial where impeachment, Democrats seem to be confused with the fact that impeachment doesn't mean removal. It means the trial for removal begins, and so that means it goes to the Senate where you guessed it, Republicans control it and they can set the rules. So the House gets to set their own unfair rules. Now the Senate's going to be able to set unfair rules, and the John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, will preside over it as the judge. And the Senate will sort of be the jury. So some Republicans want they just want to get it over with because they know they're going to stop Trump's impeachment, but probably along party lines. But some of them, like Mitch McConnell, they just want to shuffle it through no witnesses, no testimony, no nothing, just a quick vote. At which Democrats are protesting over that because no, we need a fair trial. They're like, bitch, please, you didn't give Trump a fair trial. But Trump doesn't actually want that quick trial. He wants vindication. He wants to be exonerated, to be proven beyond a shadow of doubt innocent. And so what he wants that long trial. He wants to call a bunch of witnesses. He wants the whistleblower, the Adam Schiff himself, a bunch of people. And you know what's funny about the whole whistleblower? They said he's receiving death threats, and yet he's anonymous. Explain something to me, Mr. Schiff. How does someone who's anonymous receive death threats? That makes no sense. And why? And he shouldn't stay anonymous. If he has something to say, he should be brought out into the light to say it. I mean, at least put him in front of at least put him behind the screen and scramble his voice so that he can, if he is that concerned about his identity. It's not but really, death threats seems more up the Democratic alley. Still though, they want Trump wants he wants complete vindication. He wants to be proven innocent, beyond a shadow of doubt, he's fine. But a lot of Republicans in the Senate just want to push it through. Although Mitch McConnell, because it takes a bare majority to 51 votes to set the rules, that means that if more than two because it's 53 Republican senators, if more than two disagree with McConnell over that idea for the rule, then they can have witnesses and whatnot. So the impeachment inevitable. Whether Trump being removed, not so much. Also, only 22 people were executed in the United States this year. By the way, the U.S. is the one Western country I think where the death penalty is still legal. Even then, a lot of the states I'm not sure if it's the majority of states, but some states have outright outlawed it. But the second lowest level since 1973, which is around the time the Supreme Court decided that the death penalty in its current form was unconstitutional. Well, then states reformed their practices and for the death penalty, and then it was ruled constitutional. So, I mean, it's declined not because the U.S. not because it's fallen out of favor among the American people so much. It's more that not as many people have been committing the crimes that would warrant a death penalty. A general drop in crime. So that's why it's not like people don't want. It's not they're not executing people because they decided not to. It's because there's not as many people to execute. Also, the part of the USMCA that the Democrats demanded for it to be passed was having U.S. Labor Department officials go to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico and make sure that Mexico is compliant with the labor laws. Mexico didn't like that, but it was but the U.S. said, "Come on, this is the only way we're gonna get it passed," and they said, "All right, fine." But yeah, they've settled it, so it's that's how they got the mighty AFL-CIO to agree to it. That's it's the American Federation of Labor, Congress of Industrial Organizations, pretty the largest labor union in North America. So they got a lot to say, and they're a pretty big interest group. So they got this thing done. They actually endorsed USMCA, so now it'll probably be passed because they have that done. And I think Mexico decided, all right, fine, if it's If we get it passed, then we'll be fine with it. Next up, there's an article on how impeachment shows the tribalization of American politics, like where you, otherwise known as partisanship, where you stick with your people, you stick with your tribe. Like there's no room for deviation. Like Trump, he was though he ran under the Republican banner, he was really more of an independent. Like he bashed the Republican base, like the establishment constantly. But he did get the support of the Republican Party. He enjoys like 91% of the party says he's doing a good job. By contrast, only 6% of Democrats say he's doing a good job. And the reason for that is that there's growing pressure, especially for legislators and other government officials. Like if they're in a party, they got to go with everything. They got to go along with it. Like there's a lot of Republicans who have their misgivings about what Trump did in Ukraine, or with Ukraine rather. But I mean, they're not going to vote to. But for them, it's about like if they vote against the president, one, it's going to horribly backfire for them when they come for re-election, and two, they're going to threaten the integrity of the party itself, because like it or not, because for them it's like it or not, Trump's their team captain. I mean, they have to, they have to stick with him, otherwise there's negative consequences for him. And on the Democratic side, they don't really have a team captain really. Like there's no there's a lot of lead Democrats instead of just one, but really you could say the idea of hate Trump is their team captain. They're gonna the one thing that unites them all is get rid of Trump. So, I mean, very few of them are deviating. I mean, some Republicans have deviated, some Democrats have, but by and large, they're going to stick together. Which means that if that's true, then Trump's going to be impeached, but in the House, but acquitted in the Senate, meaning he still remains in office. Unfortunately, that would make him the third president ever impeached, but at least he's not out of office. And impeachment probably will enable him to play martyr and gain a whole lot more votes and win re-election, perhaps in a landslide. And then, but back to the election, which kind of disappointing. The election is like that the election doesn't get as much attention as impeachment, because the election, like there's the more the impeachment goes on, the less there's a chance of Democrats getting elected. And while that's a good thing, it's also kind of boring. I mean, I want to see like this election stuff, campaign stuff in the news. Like I want to know what Trump's up against. The impeachment's just taking up too much newspaper space and too much TV time. And candidates, as I said, have lamented that, like, even though they want Trump out they want him out by impeachment because they want a weaker opponent to fight, Mike Pence. But they still don't like the fact that they're not getting the airtime the impeachment is. So understandable. Yeah, Warren's turning back to her familiar thing of like focusing on the economy. So, and that's her main push. But she's gone into climate change a little and healthcare and whatnot. But her main thing is the economy. Oh boy. So she wants to ignoring the fact that Social Security is running an enormous deficit. She wants to boost benefits by $200 a month. I'm not saying I don't care about senior citizens on Social Security. What I'm saying is that when it was designed in 1935, it was actually not meant for today's demographic. It was like, they set the retirement age 65, life expectancy was only 60 years old, meaning that most people would die before they could get Social Security. And even if they lived long enough, then they wouldn't collect for very long. Also, higher birth rate back then and meant that the ratio of workers to beneficiaries was 159 to 1. Now it's 3 to 1, and by 2030 it'll be 2 to 1, thanks to life expectancy increasing to 78 for men and 83 for women. I mean, you can easily collect Social Security for 2 decades now, maybe even more than that if you're really lucky, or just really healthy, and can avoid getting hit by a bus. So you have all those things, and you can collect Social Security for a couple of decades. And there's not as many people being born, so there's not many people who are replenished in the labor force. And so pretty soon right now it's only three workers paying in for every one beneficiary receiving. Soon it's going to be 2 to 1 within a decade. So that's bad. And now Warren wants to increase it. We can't even pay for people who are paying in now. Like, all the people who are currently paying Social Security probably never going to collect it. Never. It's almost guaranteed. The government will collapse if they try to do that. Or maybe the rest of the world will bail out the U.S. government. Who knows? But my prediction, it's not sustainable at all. And most economists said, like, it's going to be bankrupt bankrupt for 20 years. Medicare will go first, then Social Security. But no, she wants to increase it. And get this, her wealth, like all her taxes, she wants to put on rich people, like be it the income tax, increasing the income tax, increasing capital gains tax, imposing a wealth tax, all the other taxes she wants to put on rich people. For some, it could easily boost like tax rates over 100%. It's mind-boggling. Like the combined weight of their taxes means it's gonna gobble up all their income plus some. That's astonishing. And then she says that she's not that she's gonna actually try to imprison rich people by putting an exit tax. So, well, she didn't use the word imprison, but that's what it is. She's trying to turn the U.S. into a rich person's prison, so she can actually fund it. And California's already shown us that you can't rely on taxing the rich to sustain your economy, because the rich people pack it and leave. So people are gonna do it. So instead of having a problem with smugglers taking people into the U.S. across the U.S.-Mexico border, we may have a problem with rich people being smuggled out through like everywhere in the U.S., like everywhere they can in the U.S., where they can avoid the government. So that's bad, because yeah, rich people provide a lot more than taxes, as it turns out, Miss Warren. They provide jobs, they provide businesses, they provide so much for the country, including their tax revenue. And actually, if you lower tax rates, you could increase revenue, because lower tax rates means more people will be incentivized to work or start businesses. And if more people working and starting businesses, then they're paying more tax, and there's more people paying taxes. So it evens out to an increased tax revenue. It's an idea called the Laffer curve, because like the economist Laffer, he thought like if you plot like tax revenue on a graph, there's like if you tax them if there's a 0% tax rate, then you receive 0 in revenue. So if you put that like at the 0.00 on an XY graph, but then that's one end of the curve. But if you tax them at 100%, no one will work, and so then your tax rate will still be 0. So given that the y coordinates for both is 0, according to the rules of math, there must be like a curve that'll go up and then down. So what he wanted to do is find the mark where a higher tax rate would start being lower revenue, like where it starts dipping towards 100 instead of 0. Initially he applied it at 70%. Now most economists think it's at 33%, and the current top tax rate in the U.S. is 37%, which means that if rich people actually got a tax cut, like most Democrats would loathe, tax revenue would go up, not down. And then next up, there's an op-ed entitled "The Job for Adam Schiff," and so saying like starts off by saying this: now that his impeachment work's over, here's a new assignment for Adam Schiff: investigate whether the bad intel of the Christopher Steele dossier was there because the former British spy was a sloppy partisan, or because he was a patsy in a Russian disinformation campaign. Of course, so he's saying maybe he should investigate his own party's shadiness when it came to making up a bunch of lies about President Trump, which is never gonna happen, because in the little article summary says chairman should look into how he was taken in by Russian disinformation. So yeah, well, maybe he should look up basically start an investigation dialogue how I screwed up, but that's never gonna happen, because why would he torpedo his own party's impeachment effort, right? Because the Steele dossier was sort of the whole start of all of this. So if that happens, then if he reads if he investigates, then he's gonna get rid of that. He's gonna ruin all his hard work. And then and finally, there's an op-ed entitled "The 1619 Project Gets Schooled." So it was done this year because it's the 400th anniversary of the 1619, which was when the first African slaves were brought to the United States. Well, really, it was the colonies back then. And so it was basically the whole thing about how they decided to use the opportunity as they could have used it to celebrate how far minorities have advanced in the U.S. this far. I mean, seriously, the U.S. has been the best in the world at integrating people into society. It's funny that the left doesn't criticize Japan for being Japan is super racist. If you move to Japan, there's even if you're a legal citizen of Japan, there's almost no chance you're gonna be recognized as there's no chance that people treat you like one, because you'll look different. No one calls Japan racist. And the U.S. has achieved like the highest amount of racial integration in the world. We had a black president for crying out loud. We have African American, Asian, and Hispanic governors, senators, business leaders, any sort of high ranking occupation there is. So like yeah, we got a lot of people like from all over. Like yeah, we have an immigrant as the first lady. And yet they said instead of celebrating how far minorities have come and immigrants have come in the U.S., they instead decided to celebrate. They were rather lament how there's institutional racism, which in the U.S., which if you think about institutional racism is racism that's like built into the legal code. But you'd think that the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments and the Civil Rights Acts would have erased it because by definition there's no more institutionalized racism if racism isn't even in the law. Boom. So yeah, op-ed is scathing them for how they pretty much got everything wrong. So it's been celebrated by a lot of people, but it's full of lies. Let's see here. Yeah, like one journalist said they left out a whole bunch of stuff, which yeah they did. I read part of 1619 Project. I was like, this is come on. And the project's creator says like they just disdain their critics as like old white male historians. They go to, but like ignores like it says like the whole thing implies there are many good white people, ignoring all ignoring all the the white radicals and liberals who actually helped the abolitionist movement. I mean, if you think about it, these were the back before minorities had full civil rights. These have been the only people who could advocate for them. So it makes logical sense that there were white people who advocated for minority rights, right? I mean, how else could it have gotten done? Because like, if it was just like black people or Hispanic or Asian people themselves, nothing would happen because people would be like, they don't matter. But if it's white people advocating for it back then, they'd be like, oh, maybe we should listen. And enough white people said, hey, they should have rights too. They're no less human than we are. And other white people were like, okay, yeah, we should probably give them full rights, and they did. So it's this is sort of a the project said like the American Revolution sort of like started like a slaveocracy because apparently America was built on the backs of slaves. Not really though, it wasn't. So is anti-black racism runs the very DNA of the country? No, it's more really it's like it was a liberal idea that founded the country, like equal rights for humanity. It's a liberal ideal. Like, is it all men are created equal right there in the Declaration of Independence? It just took about 80 years to fix that. So like, every country has had its rough start. Why does America get the rap for it though? No. The project says that it's like that saying that Lincoln freed the slaves is sort of like cherry picking because okay, in all fairness, Lincoln he started the Civil War to reunite the country. Slavery, he was anti-slavery, but it was sort of an afterthought for him. He decided like, well, while we're fighting the war, might as well free slaves to try to weaken the South. So but yeah, he still freed the slaves. So saying that he shouldn't get the credit is sort of wrong. Yeah, in summary, the whole thing is like the whole 1619 Project, like it glorifies, like it points out like specific incidents and people and whatnot, ignoring the whole fact like first of all how far minorities have come in America, how far, like the fact that so many white people are actually good and actually tried to help, and all the other things are totally left out of the entire project when really they should be like the focus of the project. Like they should be like the white Northerners and some Southerners who actually advocated for minority rights should be celebrated just as much as the minorities themselves because they're the ones who had the legal representation to get them the rights. So they should be thanked for it, right? It is kind of nuts. So it seems like the left likes diversity of skin color and gender, but not of thought. And what occurred to me just the other day, I was thinking to myself, why do they push diversity so much and hate on white people? Well, specifically white men. Here's why. When the Democratic Party was founded on power, like Martin Van Buren, the guy started it, like he he used what was known as the spoil system, like like basically political favors, to stop politicians from talking about the slavery issue. So it was founded on keeping power. And that's it. That's your only ideal. Keeping power and slavery. And so for a while, up until about the civil rights movement, appealing only to white guys, that worked, because they're the only people who had, because even when women and minorities got the right to vote in the South or across the U.S., in the South they were still suppressed by Jim Crow laws. And when the Civil Rights Act finally did away with that, they decided, well, we can't just rely on white guys anymore to keep power. Let's appeal to everyone. However, if we get everyone but white men, now that's a winning coalition to stay in power. All right. So on that note remember to say that next time someone says that Democrats are a party of diversity. That's all I got for you on this episode of Patriot Soapbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great daily content.